Is the American dream dead? What up, internet world? It's your boy Jermaine back with another video. So I thought we would talk about the elephant in the room. Is the American dream dead? So this is something that I hear some people say, I hear a lot of people say, and then I also hear some people say, well, the new American dream is not the old American dream. The new American dream is just not to have any debt. But remember the old American dream? You know, the house, the two kids, the wife, the house with the picket fence, you know, a car in the driveway. And now we look at society and, gosh, the American dream is so unattainable. For example, if you live in California, it's not hard to see just how it's so difficult to achieve the American dream for your average person. Now, for someone who is succeeding in, you know, tech or the oil industry, movie industry, if you're a basketball player, the card's a little bit different for you. But if you're like an average person, it's harder, okay? You could still buy a house, but you may not be able to buy a house in the same city where you work in, okay? For example, look at San Francisco. There's not many houses here. There's a lot of condos, but houses are very, very desirable. And you take an average worker, they could buy a condo, but to buy a house for your average worker, ooh, you know, you might need a job making 200, 300,000 a year, right? So the American dream, the American dream. So in the 50s, what was the American dream? So back in the 50s, the American dream was the house with the white picket fence, you know, the stay-at-home wife, maybe one kid, possibly two kids. I think in the 50s they was making babies left and right. So I think they was having two kids back then. And then now you look at people and wow, like so many of those things are taken away. So like in the 50s, you know, you had you know, America, you know, I guess that's where the whole American dream came from, because things were really good in the 50s. The country didn't have a lot of debt. You know, we didn't have nowhere near the same problems that we have today. Like today we got, you know, a homeless situation. We got drug problems that are just off the chain. We got inflation through the roof. We got housing costs just, I mean, just bananas. You got corporations buying houses now, and that's just a whole nother topic there. Like, how on earth did we get to a point where corporations are buying single family houses? Now, I get it if you're a corporation and you want to go to LA and you want to buy $10 million houses and you want to rent them out. I totally get that. But a single family house for someone who is, you know, 25 years old that's trying to start a family, now they got to compete with Wall Street. When I hear people say the American dream is gone, it's over, it's stolen, I mean, how is a single person that's got to go to a bank, that's got to get a loan, that's got to be approved for the loan, that's got to have a income check, background check, how can they compete with someone that's coming from Wall Street who's basically have a blank checkbook? Or how can you compete with that? How can anyone compete with that? But now we live in a time where corporations can just buy single family houses and rent them out. Now, I just see so many problems with this, so many problems just on so many levels. You know, yeah, okay, you have a house here and it's rented for $1,500, and then this corporation buys it, and it's probably gonna sit vacant for a while because this corporation has bought so many houses. And when you have a house that is just sitting around and no one's living in it, it kind of starts to run down really quick. When you have people living in a house, people sort of keep up the house. Like if there's a water leak, someone's gonna call a plumber. If there's, you know, bugs coming in the house, people are gonna, you know, stop the bugs from coming into the house. If there's termites outside, people are gonna do something about that. If the house is just sitting there for months and months and months and no one's going there, well, it's almost like it's gonna sort of be wasted. It's not gonna. It's not the best use of a house, right? People, when people live in a house, they help keep the house living, right? When no one's living in a house, you got weeds growing up, you got this growing up, you got, you know, rats out in the backyard and stuff doing this and that. People living in a house will help the house, right? But when you got a corporation that's just buying up houses just to buy up houses, it just seems like, oh, where is this going to end? This is going to be a disaster. And I think it's so sad when you hear about these brand new subdivisions that are just being built, but they're being built just to rent. Okay. Now, to be optimistic, I don't know if this will ever happen, but possibly there's laws passed in the future where corporations just can't buy like single family houses, right? You can't buy 3-bedroom houses. You can't buy 4-bedroom houses. You can buy 6-bedroom houses. You can buy 12-bedroom houses, right? Because your average Joe is not looking for a 12-bedroom house. Your average Joe is probably looking for a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom house. And now they have to go compete with someone who, has a blank checkbook. So this is one reason why I hear people say like the American dream is just dead. Other reasons I hear that American dream is just completely dead is the whole like college education system and how so many people went to college and they got in debt to go to college, but then they basically got out of college and worked a normal job or worked a job that they didn't need to go to college for. But then on the flip side, they have all this debt that they have to pay back. Now, that is one part of the population, okay? That, where people, go to college, you take out loans, and you have to pay the loans back, right? But then there's the other side of people going to college where your parents just pay for you to go to college. So you just go, you just have a really, really good time. You party, you make good grades. But then after college, you have no debt. And you're able to just get a job and you don't have to pay back any money, right? And then maybe your parents help you get a house, right? Maybe they give you the money for a down payment, but at the same time, you have a job where you don't even make enough money to even qualify for this house, but you got your parents helping you out. But then on the flip side, you got some people that are, they went to school, went to college, and they got loans. After they got loans, but then on the flip side, you have some people that went to college and they got loans, and then they got out of college and they have to pay the loans back. But then at the same time, the job that they're doing is a job that they didn't need to go to college for, and they're not even making like as much money as they would have if they would have went to college for the thing that they would have, meaning that it would have been easier to pay back their loans. And then these are people that typically don't have help from their parents, right? So when it's time to buy a house, well, they're not buying a house. They're just going to pay rent, and rent is top dollar, right? And rent is just money you're just like paying every month. So the American dream looks vastly different for a person that don't have money, that don't have basically like, tech money or family money, right? It looks vastly different, okay? It's so much harder to achieve. For someone who has help from their family, gosh, the world looks very different. It looks very different. So most people don't, have a lot of help from their family. So another reason I hear like the American dream is dead, it's harder to make it, yo. It's harder to survive. And then after the pandemic, things kind of got slightly easier for some people. But for other people, things got much harder, okay? If you were working like for a tech company, things got much easier for you after the pandemic, okay? Before the pandemic, you would have to, go to the bus stop, wait for the bus, and then the bus is going to pick you up in San Francisco. It's going to drive you all the way down to Mountain View, right? Or Cupertino. or Redwood City. And you get off the bus and you're at this campus, right? So you're at this campus and there's food, there's games, there's entertainment, there's private parks you can go walk around in, right? And then you do your work, you eat 3 times a day, you take a meal to go, you get back on the bus drops you off. Now those people don't even have to do none of that. They can just all work from home. So for some people, it got easier. But for other people I know, it actually got a lot harder. A lot of people lost their jobs, right? A lot of people lost really cushy jobs, really good jobs where you didn't do much and you made good money. After the pandemic, things changed. We discovered that, hey, these jobs, you don't need these jobs anymore, right? So these people lose their jobs. Also, I've also heard a lot of things since the pandemic, a lot of things along the lines of, if you're running a small business, things have changed since the pandemic. Now, don't get me wrong. I do know some small businesses that are thriving after the pandemic. And it's just certain situations, right? Maybe you were in an area and multiple restaurants near you closed, but your restaurant is still open. But since your restaurant is still open, well, at lunchtime, everybody goes to your restaurant because that's the only place to go to, right? So I have heard of, entrepreneurs benefiting from that. But then I've also heard of entrepreneurs suffering just because of higher costs and inflation. When the restaurant has to purchase food at a higher cost, well, they pass that higher cost on to the customers. Well, now there's less customers going out purchasing food. So it kind of does hurt. There is like this cycle, right? And it's not just food. It's a lot of other things that have went up since inflation. You want to talk about travel, right? Air flights, airfare and flights. Oh my gosh. Flights, the prices have increased so much since the pandemic. Hotels have increased quite a bit too since the pandemic. I don't know about tours. That's one thing that maybe it's the same, hiring a tour guide or something, or going on a wine tour or something like that. But definitely hotels. I don't know about Ubers. Some people say Ubers the price have went up. Some people say it's the same. It's kind of hard to tell because you don't really know. Like whenever you request an Uber, you put it for here going to the airport. Well, it'll just show you a price, but you don't know if that's a low price. You don't know if that's a high price. So like, you just don't know anymore, The American dream. Now, the other side of the American dream is getting married and being in a relationship. Now, I don't even know if we want to go ahead and open this can of worms, but since the pandemic, a lot of relationships have changed. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still a lot of people in traditional relationships, but nowadays, it seems like polyamory, when you date multiple people, it seems like it's on the rise, right? Because I just hear more and more people now, oh, I don't date anyone. Oh, I have multiple partners. Oh, not in monogamy anymore. Like I got my partner I hang out with on the weekends, and I got my partner I hang out with at work. And I hear a lot of stories like this, So it's not like you have people coming together because to achieve the American dream, you almost need two incomes nowadays. Back in the day, a man could have a house, have kids at home, have a stay-at-home wife, and they can have a decent house. And he could work at the factory making a normal amount of money, and they can afford to live like that. Today, gosh, you almost need two incomes. Okay, unless you got like, you a doctor, or you high up in tech, or you in finance, you almost need two incomes. Because if you just look at the average home price in San Francisco, roughly $1 million. I mean, bro, you need like almost two people making $200,000 a year to comfortably afford that, you know? And people make $200,000 a year, but it's not everybody. The average is maybe what, 60,000 a year average. So it's a lot harder to make it nowadays. A whole lot harder to make it, especially if you got kids. If you got kids around here, oh, it must be so expensive. And just taking the kids to school every day. Living in the city, you got to put the kid in the Uber, and the Uber $20 to go there, and then the Uber $20 to go back. And your kid gonna want some food at school. So what you got to give your kid another $30, $40 so your kid can order some Uber Eats so the food can be dropped off at the school. I mean, kids are expensive, and we're not even talking about private schools here. I mean, you want to talk about private schools. I mean, the price just goes up and up and up. And if your kids get into things like sports, if they're into things like piano, track, man, it's about to get so expensive. And they better not be real smart. And that, you send them off to a real good, prestigious university like Stanford, you know, and they're going to hit you with another 50, 60,000 per year just in tuition. And then you got to give kid another 50,000 so they can live their life there. So, I mean, kids here, that they can get really expensive real quick. I mean, it don't even matter if you got a rich kid or a poor kid. I mean, poor kids cost a lot of money too. They all gotta go to the doctor. They all gotta, eat. They all gotta get shoes. You just can't go buy your shoe when you live in San Francisco. You just can't go out and buy your shoes, your kids, no buddies, right? You can't go out and buy your kids, off-brand shoes. Living out here, you got to be spending $200-$300 on shoes for your kids. I mean, that's just how it is. Otherwise, your kid gonna go to school, and you gonna send your kid to school with them buddies on, and your kid gonna come back because everybody gonna be making fun of them, saying, "What kind of shoes you got?" So you gotta take care of your kids. So the American dream, it's crazy expensive. But on the flip side, let's actually talk about places where the American dream is quite achievable. Okay? Because we're actually talking about the cream of the crop, the most expensive places, San Francisco, right? So there's another YouTuber I was following, and he basically does content where like, he'll go to auctions and buy cars and fix them and then sell them, and then he'll just talk about cars, right? And I was watching one of his videos, and he was talking about how he is not going to make daily videos. He's going to make 2 videos a week. He's going to, slow down because he's been sick, in and out of the hospital, that sort of thing. He went on to say that, he's been thankful for YouTube. He's been, on YouTube for 10 plus years, and he's made over $2 million from YouTube. And I was like, wow, that's not bad. That's great. That's awesome achievement. And then he went on to say that, he spent a lot of the money, but he's bought multiple houses, and he has rental properties. And he said, I just bought this house I'm living in now, and it was $75,000. And I'm thinking, $75,000 for a house? Is that even, like, where is that? And then he lived in Oklahoma, right? So there are a lot of places in the U.S. where you can still buy a house for $100,000. Now, I didn't say it was going to be a nice house. I didn't say it was going to be a house that's ready to move in. It might need some work, right? But there are a lot of places you can live in the U.S. where you can make $100,000, $120,000, and you can live in a house that's $100,000, okay? Or you can live in San Francisco. You can make $120,000, and you can be renting a place that you'll never pay, you'll never own. Or you can be living in San Francisco, paying, make $120,000, and then maybe you live in a house that costs $800,000. So there are places in the U.S. where you can still, buy a house. Now, I don't know what the school system is going to be like if you got kids. I don't know what the entertainment is going to be like there, because in a place where houses are $75,000, I would imagine it's probably not the most popping place. You probably got a lot of nature. You probably got a river or a lake nearby. You probably don't live by a beach at $100,000. I mean, I don't know, maybe Florida, maybe Virginia. Maybe they got some cheap places you can live by the water. So you got to think about this whole American dream thing, because the American dream may not necessarily not to be in debt. The American dream now today, it could be to more so not live in the city, because cities are so expensive. Who can afford them? When you're talking about the American dream nowadays could very well be something along the lines of, maybe you have land and you have a garden, and you don't have neighbors that live right next door to you, right? because I see a lot of that lifestyle popping up all over YouTube. A lot of people doing the van life, but when you see people doing van life, where are they usually at? They're usually out in nature, some beautiful place far away from people. Could that be the new American dream? Because American cities kind of suck right now with the rampant crime, with the just wokenism, with the just so much going on in American cities. So could the American dream is to be, living on your own acres, right? Far away from people. That actually sounds nice. To just be far away from people. And yeah, that sounds really great. The new American dream. Also, not being in debt sounds really great too. Because so many people are in debt. So many people owe money. Everybody has a car. Not everybody pays their car off in cash. Some people pay payments every month. Not everybody pays off their house in cash. Some people make them payments every month. The American dream. I mean, I look back and I say to myself, looks like our parents had it easier because it was easier for them to buy a house and buy a car and buy all the things that they needed, right? But then look at our life today. There's so much technology. There's so much tech advance that we've had since, the 50s. Now we got driverless cars on the roads. We got cars with no driver in them. That's what we're doing nowadays. So yeah, things are more expensive. I can't believe how expensive it is, like, to be classified as how much money you have to make in San Francisco not to be classified as low income. It's like 130,000. In San Jose, it's like $148,000 a year you have to make to basically be out of the low income bracket. Like, that is so much money. That is so much money. And then a house down there is like $1 million plus, yo. It's like, dang, how did things get so expensive? However, that's not everywhere. That's not all over the country. If you live in the middle of the country, you can definitely find some good deals. But you won't live by the beach. But anyway, I'm out. I'm going to wrap this video up. Another video for the day. What about that American dream? Y'all think it's dead? Y'all think it's coming back? Y'all think y'all can go achieve the American dream? Because there's people out here achieving the American dream, especially in San Francisco. It's not that many people, but people out here, they hitting that dream, yo. It's a dream. Like, you gotta run for it. You gotta go for it. But anyway, for now, I'm gonna wrap this video up. I'll see y'all later. Thanks a lot for watching. If y'all watched to the end of this video, I want y'all to put 27 down in the bottom. Put 27. But we out. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks a lot for watching, and peace out. Yo, ow!